start. Ohayou gozaimasu, good morning, namaste, sawadika. Well, my name is, that's my long name. So,
Paramita.
but you can just call me Paramita.
Can you please read it to us?
Okay. My name is Putu Sri Agung Paramita Kelakan. Just call me Paramita. Well, yeah, that's my title is a case reflection of political and law issues for Indonesian medical doctors and how bioethical health resources. But actually, this presentation is based on my experience as a medical doctor. I work in like a remote area in Indonesia. First of all, I'm still like bachelor. I have bachelor degree only, and compared to the other presentation, I think this presentation is like quite shallow, not so deep like yours. But yeah, I will try. Okay. So I want to talk about this because like when I was a medical student, I always read about an article about the imbalance distribution rate of doctors in Indonesia, and I always thought like, oh, that's my I'm sorry. Okay. And I always thought that after I become a doctor, why not working in the remote areas? Because the imbalance, because of the imbalance distribution, the people in the remote area need more doctors. So I tried to work there, and finally, after I worked there for about one year and 4 months, I found out why most of doctors doesn't want to work in remote areas. Okay, so let's talk about the doctor-patient ratio first. Like in WHO recommendation, it's 1 doctor for 1,000 people, and in Indonesia, the ideal rate is 1 doctor for 2,500 people. And based on the Indonesian Doctor Association data, the number of medical doctors in Indonesia is equal to the number of the citizens, but the distribution rate made it unequal. So I have a data from the Ministry of Health, and so many data, but I will just take 2 for example. I take Bali and Maluku. Bali has the public health centers. This data is the data from the primary health care, which we call it public health center or puskesmas. In Bali, 98% public health centers are having more doctors than the average standards, which is for 1 public health center we only need like 2 doctors, but in Bali there are like some more than 2. Most of the public health centers have like 4 doctors or even 6. Meanwhile, in Maluku, Maluku is Moluccans, 64% of public health centers are having less doctors than the average standards, or even they don't have doctors at all. So, and then how the government tried to solve this problem? Well, the central government has 2 programs. It's called Nusantara Sehat and WKDS. WKDS or WKDS is Wajib Kerja Dokter Spesialis. Nusantara Sehat is a program that allows the general practitioner like me to work about 2 years in the remote areas, and the WKDS is for the specialists who has recently graduated, and they have an obligation to work in the remote area like for about 1 or 2 years. Also, the regional government, they also try to recruit doctors to work in the area, which is like my case. I work with the regional government, and they have a contract with me for 1 year. But what mostly happen is the doctor are really work for more than 1 year in the remote area. So the question is, why most of Indonesian doctors don't like to work at the remote areas? Of course, there are so many reasons, like infrastructures. In Indonesia, transportation in remote area is not good. It's hard to get, from the public health center to the hospital, it's really hard to go to the hospital. We need to pass a really narrow street, we have to pass a broken street, something like that. Also, it's far from everything. Like, we doctors need to gain more information every day. We need to gain knowledge every day, but like the signal for internet is limited, something, and yeah, it's hard for us to improve our knowledge there. And then some areas are the endemic of some diseases like malaria, also the risk of war. In Indonesia, we still have so many endemic areas, and my fellow doctors, so many fellow doctors died from malaria when they are working in the remote areas. So working in the remote areas is like having life-threatening risk. So most of doctors will like thinking like more than twice maybe to work in the remote areas. Also, in my case, I don't have any problem with the infrastructure, but in my case is a bad treatment for the doctor, which leads the doctor to terminate their contract or doesn't want to extend the contract. Especially a treatment for people with power. People with power, I mean, is those who work in the government, in the regional government for this case, and also their family actually, because in Indonesia, in the remote area, we still experience something like nepotism. That's why. So, the political issues which I have experienced, like when people with power do or push doctors to fabricate a sick letter. I don't know what sick letter in English though. It's like when you're sick and you got a letter from the doctor to mention that you are sick and you cannot do the job, something like that. Fabricate the incident of chronologies, fabricate patient medical reports, requests for a psychotropic medicine, another political act due to the election, and the corruption of our salary. People often came to me and asked to change the incident chronologies so they can claim their insurance money, something like that. But mostly the people who ask for this is people who work in the government or have the relation with the government. And the most scary thing that happens to me is when one of the national health insurance worker came to me and asked why my patient have been treated in 2 places in the same day. Yeah, they asked me because it was my patient and I undersigned it and I checked the document and it was like some type using a pen eraser, and I said no, this is not me, because when I use eraser or something I need to sign beside the eraser. So we tried to find out who did that, and it turned out that the person who did that is my fellow worker but not a doctor, but she has a relation with the government, so they cut the case just like that, and I feel like there's some injustice there, and I decided to terminate my contract. But what if the doctors refuse the request of the people with power? Well, this is what will they get? I mean, for me, I'm a contract doctor, so it's not really a matter for me if I terminate my contract. But there are some doctors who work with the government, and they are really tied with the government. So they might have a punishment like mutation of workplace, which this is kind of scary because I told you that working in a remote area is like life-threatening risk, and for those who have family, it's kind of hard for them to move to the more isolated area. I mean, yeah, you have to think about your children's education, you have to think about your health and yeah, something like that. But if if we agree to do the fabrication, we also have risks as a doctor, which is a revocation of our registration as a doctor, which means we cannot be able to work as a doctor anymore. Also, we can get criminal punishment. And in Indonesian, doctors always say that I will not be affected by religion, nation, ethnicity, gender, politics, or social status and diseases in order to do my responsibility to the patient. And the Medical Council of Indonesia also mentioned at the Ethical Code of Indonesian Medical Doctors that doctors should work based on their profession standard and shall not be affected by things that disturbing their working standard and ethics. Well, somehow the crisis of this interests are causing dilemmas. Well, because back to my title is like political issues. So I try to find some definition of political. I mean, I'm not a from politics, so maybe you can help to correct me or something. But this is the definition of politics and power that I have found. So what is politics? Based on a professor from my country said, politics is an effort to decide the rules which could be accepted by the citizens to conduct a harmonious life. This is from Professor Miriam Budiharjo. And the second one, I took the definition from Peter Merkel, which is politics at its best is a noble guess for good order and justice, but politics at its worst is a selfish grab for power, glory, and riches. So for the definition of power, I took it from Professor Miriam again. Power is an ability of someone or party to affect other people or parties' behavior the way they want. So I made a conclusion that indeed people with power can give order or controlling another people, but there are, laws that controlling people powers. However, some people who has power uses their power to ignore the laws. It happens in Indonesia. And yeah, for people who have less power like me or the other doctors or other paramedics, it's really hard to fight back. And then from this, I try to find a definition of the ethics of politics. So I found one book. It's a book of Ethics of Politics by Frank Magnus Suseno. He said that the ethics of politics are questioning about the human responsibility and the obligatory as human, and not only as a citizens to their country, the laws, etc. So I came questioning again about what is the obligatory as a human. So this is my question. What is human responsibility and the obligatory as human? If politics is an effort to decide the rules which could be accepted by citizens to conduct a harmonious life, it means that it should not violate human rights and the laws. Also, people with power must understand that their power should not be used to create a harmonious life and not to do harm. So, from this is what I'm thinking. This is my personal thinking, and then I came I just knew about bioethics principle, like the 14 principles from the UNESCO, and I'm thinking about some principles that would apply to this. So I know that bioethics principles are mostly in my country, especially it's being used into medical, health, and life science case. But however, in my point of view, they could be applied into social science and into political science, which hopefully could affect the social and political activities. Right. Some of the bioethics principles that I could think is human dignity and human rights. My case may be not mentioning doctor as an individual, but still violating the ethics of other professions is kind of the same thing with violating human rights, because I believe that ethics itself is based on human rights. Also, autonomy and individual responsibility, like the autonomy of persons to make decisions while taking responsibility for those decisions, and respecting the autonomy of others is to be respected. Indeed, that its profession has their responsibilities, and violating other profession ethics should be considered as violating their autonomy and individual responsibility. And the other is respect for human vulnerability and personal integrity. In applying and advancing scientific knowledge, this is the definition of the UNESCO chart. But in my opinion, like if the doctors refuse the people with powers order due to their ethics, and they give the doctors punishment, then it's not respecting the doctor's personal integrity. So there are ethics between its profession, which should be creating a harmony rather than crashing each other. And its profession should understand that the other profession has their ethics, which are based on human dignity and human rights. Its profession also should have respect for other autonomy and responsibility, also the other profession integrity. And then my conclusion is bioethics principle should be applied to social and political sciences as well as the social and political activities. And every profession should be aware of other ethics, so there won't be any crisis between its profession, isn't it? I put a question behind because from yesterday until now, for me, based on your presentation, ethics and bioethics is like more than action. We choose to do it or not. So I add this question, isn't it? So if I made a conclusion that bioethics principles should be applied, then it's our choice, or the government choose to do it or not. So I cannot do anything. I just can share this conclusion and my opinion, but it's back to the government whether they will do it or not. So that's why I had, isn't it? Okay, that's all for me. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much. Yes, we'll start the discussion. It gives us that is a picture from where?
Right. This is from Bromo Mountain, from East Java.
East Java.
Indonesia.
And it could be from Japan. Yeah?
Really?
Yes, it could be, yeah.
One of the most beautiful places I see.
I'm sorry?
One of the most
Oh, you've been there?
Yes.
Oh, thank you.
It really looks like that.
Yeah.
And one question.
Yes.
Is it social or political activities that are forcing the doctors to go to remote areas or to any primary areas or to important areas?
It's a choice, our choice to go to the remote areas or not.
Political activities are there.
Political activities, like I mentioned before. Oh yeah, in remote areas, I mean, like my experiences, I choose to work in the remote area. In my mind, before I worked there, I was hoping that I could help the people. I could be a good doctor there to help people where if they need me. But I have an obstacle. It's not an obstacle. So many obstacles from the political activities by the government. It's not. I mean, political not always mean bad, right? But mostly of my experience is bad. Like they try to manipulate my medical report, and they ask me to give them a psychotropic medicine, which is like illegal in Indonesia, and yeah, something like that. And for me, it's easy to refuse them because I am a contract doctor. But you know, I work with a doctor who is from a government, which is she cannot say no for the government, and we have like crash. It's not a crash it's crash because we have a different contract. But I know that deep inside her heart, it's not good too. I know it. But
the government doesn't post you to different areas?
Oh yeah, if maybe my colleagues did that, she might be transferred to the more isolated areas because she didn't want to follow the rules. But for me, if they can put me into the more isolated area, but I can just refuse because my contract says that I should work in certain area, not the other areas. So it's like
Doctors are put in state governments and central government.
my case is state government, not
State government.
Yeah. But for central government, they have their own programs, and
Yeah.
for central government, it's quite good handled. Yeah.
Yeah, and they'll be posted in some areas, is it not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For the central government. But I work at the regional government. Okay.
Yes?
I have a question.
Atsushi, yes?
So, I'm also a doctor and working here, and Japan has the same kind of problem, especially here in the north part of Japan. We don't have enough doctors
Yes.
in the rural areas. So I'm very feel sympathy with your presentation. And I have one question. So what kind of people? So you mean the people with power? So what kind? So who is that? And this is the first question. Second question is that why don't people ask a physician, a doctor to fabricate many things? So I would like to know that reason.
Okay. People with powers mean like people like governors and maybe vice governor also, and including their relation, their family. They can ask that. They will say, "I'm the family of governor. I'm the family of vice governor." So yeah, something like that. And the second question, sorry.
So why do they ask doctors to fabricate, diagnosis or prognosis or many other things?
Because I'm sorry to say this because I am saying bad thing about my countries maybe, but yeah, in Indonesia like education is not really good. I mean, not everyone have a good education, and in a remote area, people still think that we should follow the government. We should follow the government, whatever they told us to do. We just accept that. So because people think like that, the government will think like, I have the power. I can order you to do anything. That's a bad habit actually.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Other comments or questions? Yes, Maria?
One comment and one question. First, my academic question is same as assessors as well. I wondering you mentioned about the people power. You mean patient's power?
No, like, yeah, some of them are patient who came from the government, or patient who is a family of the government, or even the governor itself came to me to be my patient, something like that.
Because we have a maybe assess is very good. Because we have a power problem. The paternalistic relationship between doctor and the patient, and too strong paternalism we have in Japan. So it's a very social problem. But somewhere paternalism is very useful and necessary for caring patients.
I'm sorry, I didn't get it.
The paternalistic relationship between doctor and patient, and this system is not so good because patient cannot talk equally with doctors, and the doctor try to give a power to patient became keep secret. So it's not so good for, we cannot get the data. We cannot get a good information from patient. So it's not connected with a good medical care. But somewhere, otherwise, the paternalistic relationship is very important. Louder. And the relationship patient and doctor is a specialist and non-specialist. Somewhere paternalistic system is also vice versa. So I wonder, my question is, I wonder, so people, maybe patients, patients have too much strong power?
You want to ask me like if the patient have too much power? Well, as in medical.
We are scared.
Yeah. Not every patient actually. As for me, I mean, people have their different criteria and characters, right? As in the medical ethics, like we need patients have their own rights and obligation, like the same as doctors. Doctors have their own rights and obligation, and it's our obligation to tell the patient what are their diseases or something, and they have rights to know about that. Well, you're talking about these cases of is the patient have too much power? Well, yeah, I can say, but it's only from the patients who came from the government. And this is not right, because my country already state that our own responsibility as a doctor and their rights as a patient. So I think what they do is like violating the ethics of the medical ethics.
My personal comment is final slide, your slide.
Final slide,
You mentioned about isn't it?
isn't it?
Isn't it?
Uh-huh.
My personal comment is
Mhm.
all of the doctors sharing this kind of dilemma. And also, recently I can feel such a kind of dilemma for doctors.
Mhm.
It's necessary.
It's necessary.
Yeah, because we should always keep a dilemma
Yeah.
and to develop much more better doctor.
Well, I have a question back. What will you do if you were me?
Dilemma?
Yeah. I mean, if people do like something like that, like fabricating a medical record, and you are working in the remote areas like me, you are a contract doctor, not a government doctor. What would you do? Like me, I choose to terminate my contract. Even though it's bring a sadness for me, because I really love the people in the remote areas and I really love to work with them. But what will you choose?
I try to good medical care for patient and social system and the relationship, personal relationship between patient and doctors. Every kind of organization or every kind of issue, and we cannot go well smoothly.
Yeah, that's it.
But keeping a dilemma is also good for me to grasping the better way. However,
That's what I did. I learned many things from working in the remote areas. I know that maybe I choose to terminate my contract, and then I moved to other area, which is in Bali. But Bali is not that isolated though. But they have another island under Bali. It's quite isolated, and I worked there. I experienced the same. So, yeah. I terminate my contract again. And then I go back to the city, which is Surabaya. Yeah, I still have some problems, but it's like less worse than the before. But now I made like decision that I should work there. I should stay and learn how to communicate with them. Because I want to work again in the remote area. I want to go back. But I need to learn from the central government first how to manage this kind of dilemma. How can I communicate to them? And when I go back to the remote area, I will be better prepared than before. So that's
maybe we would later keep girls talk after lunch.
sure.
Before, I just have a question. In Thailand, is there a problem of rural doctors? How do you...
Like this, you can fabricate the medical record.
You can't fabricate?
No.
Okay, so on the fabrication issue, I want to ask our Japanese doctors. In Japan, in the past, the cause of death was often put as a heart stopped, even though more complicated cases of cause of death, 20 or 30 years ago. So heart stopping was the most common cause, but it's not really the cause of death, it's just a, is this falsification or? It's not really, it's a mild form of fabrication. No?
Well, I don't. I'm not sure about other cases. coma cases, people die when their heart stop.
Yeah.
So you can, diagnose the disease, heart failure or cardiac arrest. But there are secondary causes which are leading to the cardiac arrest. So a little bit complicated, but I don't think this is fabrication. Of course, we have a lot of cases where we don't know the exact etiology of death. Yeah.
So for example, I die of tuberculosis because I had AIDS. But then I maybe don't want to put AIDS on the death certificate. I just want to put tuberculosis. Does this thing happen?
I don't really know, but Professor Okita is specialized with HIV.
Because I'm not sure about that. It could happen.
Yeah.
Even
Yeah. So that's a mild form. When a disease has a social stigma, you may avoid to put the disease. So what happens in Indonesia? So this is the case, often AIDS patients used to die of tuberculosis, and the real cause is AIDS. The real cause is HIV, AIDS. But they actually die of tuberculosis. So because AIDS is a social stigma, avoid to put AIDS, just say died of tuberculosis.
We never explain that. We write
AIDS.
AIDS in the diagnosis.
But is it a social stigma in Indonesia?
Isn't it like people diseases? It's like we have to keep it secret.
Yeah.
Yeah. So nobody will know that. Even if the patient die, we cannot refill it. We just keep it like we have to make sure that the patient is taken care with a good.
But on the medical certificate, cause of death, because you have to go to the government office to say, look, the person died, here's the death certificate.
I never experienced with AIDS though. But all I know that AIDS. Yeah.
So that's a falsification, yeah?
One more question.
Okay, Aruna and then Raphael, okay, yep.
Who wants to ask?
Raphael has had his hand up for a while.
Just a brief question. Is there a form of trade unions between doctors?
The formal what?
Of trade unions?
Trade?
Trade unions to I don't know how to explain.
Is there a doctors' trade union, like a medical association, I guess?
Oh yeah, we have Indonesian Doctor Association.
And are they strong?
Does that the power to
Well, it's kind of the same. Like I attend the election of the head of the Indonesian doctors, and one of people called me and please choose this doctor because he has relationship with the governor or something like that. So I'm not sure.
Aruna,
The
yeah.
medical association, as they say those who finish their doctorate, MBBS, they are posted to primary healthcare centers, that is in villages of rural areas, and only after they finish 3 years or 5 years, then they are posted to cities in India. In India. But what you say, it doesn't happen in
No, in my
Indonesia.
country, like doctors can work freely. Like we don't have like a fixed salary. We just have a salary that's from our patients, and it's not much though. And like we can work in 3 different places.
That is after you finish your doctorate.
After I finish, my doctorate.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They are posted to primary healthcare centers, that is rural areas, villages.
But
They find it very difficult to stay there and take care of people.
But
And then they are posted to cities.
no, it's different. Oh, but the specialist is like that. For a general doctor like me, after I finish my doctorate, and you can go anywhere. But for specialists, you have to work at the remote area, like the WKDS that I mentioned before, for 1 year or 2 years, and then you can go back to city. That's in my country. Yes, Professor Richard.
One idea from political philosophy that maybe is relevant here that I think is interesting too In political philosophy, the theory of action, how can we act? The dilemma that you have is, you're in a situation where other people have more power and you feel that you have to either do what they want you to do or you have to leave, or if you resist them in some way, something bad might happen to you. In political philosophy, that theory of action is sometimes called voluntarism. And it means, everything depends on me. I have to do something. What do I do? And you ask the question, what do I do in that situation? And that's one view of political philosophy, and the final answer is probably you can't do much. Right? But the other idea of political philosophy is you can't do much, but everybody together, you change the system.
Yeah.
You change social structure. So, the theory of action is the social structure, limits what you can do as an individual. And if it's limiting you and you can't do anything inside the social structure, the only way you can change things is by changing the social structure. But this is a radical idea because it means, democratization. It means, you have to, you have to get other people together with you. But, I mean, I don't know. My own personal idea is that, these kind of problems when they come up, you kind of have to look at the social structure rather than what do we do as individuals. There's not much we can do as individuals, and we have to think about how do we change the social structure.
Yes, and if you really love the rural people, you may just have to tolerate the system. Yeah.
Or that's the other thing,
Yeah.
That's voluntarism. You tolerate the system or you change the system.
Yeah, rather than resigning all the time, because they're going to continue to break it. It's not possible for you to change the system.
Also, I was like a bit more emotional in that because I feel like nobody with me, nobody stay with me. But then, I learned from that maybe I can try even I try to be more patient and try to connect more deeply with them, like slowly, but not like before because I was too emotional. But I think about that. So when I go back, I will try to be more patient, something like that, and try to understand the structure too. Yeah.
I'm sorry, but it just sounds like you're accommodating yourself to the system. I don't change. I try to make myself fit into the system better. And what I think you should do is become a revolutionary. Change the system.
I think, I will try. But I mean, I will try nicely, not like before.
Yeah, okay. You're not gonna.
How old were you when you were there?
It's like 2 years ago, like 30. Now I'm 32.
You're still very young.
Oh, thank you.
There's a couple of questions on Skype from Mirza, who's from Indonesia.
From Muhammad.
Do you want to speak, Mirza? Or you can, I'm showing it here to Paramita.
Can I scroll up? Because I would like asking about the problem of handling patients. Some cases it's different how to handling between PHS and normal patients, selected pharmacy and room.
Could you explain the question to us?
This is a question about is the difference between how to handling patient of BPJS. BPJS is my country's health insurance, and normal patient or patient maybe he means like
Private patient.
Yeah, private without BPJS and selected pharmacy and room. Well, the difference is yes, of course, because the limited of the fund. So they are just limited for few medicine, which is like the generic medicine, which is not what is it called? The medicine with
Generics.
trade, right?
Yeah, generics.
The generics, we use generic medicine to the BPJS patient, and sometimes they add more medicine when first the patient have to go to the primary health care first, and if the primary health care cannot do the treatment, and they have to transfer it to the hospital, and the second hospital it is like a staging transfer from primary health care and then to the type B, C hospital, and then the type B and the type A finally. And of course it's different type of the hospital have their different medication. And about the selected pharmacy, yes, we have a limited medicine for the BPJS, And about the room, of course it's different because BPJS only covered like until the third class, second class, and first class of the hospital room. But for the private one, they can go to the VIP, the VVIP or some presidential room or something like that. It's for Muhammad.
Yep.
And what?
Manuel's question.
The power is plenty. Ameliorative.
Read the question aloud.
What is ameliorative?
Or Manuel, you can speak. If you can speak, you can. Superpower is plenty. Ameliorative devices and strategies. It would be truly unexpected that medical restorative functions were not coveted. And is the coercion against Indonesian doctors usually employed in a bear fashion or mostly inside a carrot and stick kind of plot?
Why it's so hard? I cannot
It's
understand
a
what's
tricky question. So, are there incentives for, let's say you're working in the hospital, in the countryside, how do they reward your performance? Like if you are going to challenge the system, are you going to actually get punished by the local hospital as a troublemaker?
Yes.
Yes?
Now, as I mentioned before, there's a contract doctor, there's a government doctors. If government doctors try to refuse the order, they can get cut from the government or they can like send to the more isolated areas. But as for a contract doctor, we have our contract. So we work based on the contract. So if the government asks us to work differently than the contract is written, then we can just terminate the contract.
So is it considered a punishment of a government doctor that will send you to a more rural area if you do a bad job?
Yes, I guess because it's like a social punishment, something like that. Because it's really risky to work in more isolated areas because it's
Of disease or?
Yeah, disease and like war. We have like more ancient, what's it?
War.
People, yeah. So they still have war every day, and it's risky for us. We can get stabbed or get getting shot with arrows, something like that. Yeah, it happened in Indonesia.
Exciting.
Yeah.
Exciting life
Yeah.
in the Papua or somewhere, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes?
In India, Ayurveda Siddha doctors, they go to the primary health care center and they are able to take care of the patients, but not the doctors, not the allopathy doctors. You understand?
Allopathy.
Allopathy is what you do.
Oh, okay.
Do your MBBS, MS, MD, those who finish their doctorate. They don't, because they don't stay there in primary health care center. But Ayurveda Siddha, that is local medicine, Indian medicine.
Okay.
They stay there and they take care. And they are taking a lot of money. But Ayurvedic, the primary health care center, the doctors don't stay there. Don't you think that both are different? But does it happen in Indonesia?
Why the doctor doesn't stay in the primary health? Because they give treatment to from like home visits, something like that.
But
I mean, the doctor doesn't stay in the
remote areas or primary health care center.
They'll come back to the city.
Villages,
They,
rural areas.
They visit the house of the patient, or the patient came to the primary health care.
No, they have to take care of the patients. Those who finish MBBS, MS, MD, allopathy doctors.
I mean, the patient, they came to the primary health care, or we as a doctor who came to the house of the patient? Which one?
Yeah, you have to. No, they
No,
will
they
come
have
to
to-
the.
They will come. Oh,
They will
okay,
come
okay.
to the
Yeah,
office
I
or
understand.
hospital.
It's kind of the same. The differences is like the doctor who sent to the primary health care is the doctor who already finished their MD, not the what?
Those who
Yep.
finish even MBBS.
MBBS. It's kind of different in Indonesia. Like we studied for 4 years to get our Bachelor of Medicine, and then after that we studied in the hospital for 2 years to get our MD title, and after that we have to enter the
Clinical internship?
No, not clinical interest. It's like an exam for our competency as a doctor, and we pass the exam, then we can work everywhere we want.
Those who finish MS and MD, they'll be posted in cities or in districts.
So do you have to do a government service in a rural area if you receive the government funding for your medical education?
Yes.
How many years service do you need to pay back your student fees?
Like my friends from Papua, they have a scholarship from the government to study in Surabaya, in my city, and after they graduate, they have to go back to Papua and work as a government doctors. It means like
For how many years?
until they have to retire, until they are like 60 years old. It's just the contract as a government doctors.
Right.
The retire age is 60.
Okay. So in some countries it's less, maybe just a few years rural service before you're free to move. Any other comments, anyone? Okay, well thank you very much.
Thank you.